Still on This Morning on ITV, and on that program, Nationalism and You. And you certainly know ITV is the best. We are now cruising into the second discussion segment of the program, looking at festering security challenges, the necessity for new strategy. And with me to take a look at this is Honorable Jonathan Isaac Onoja. He is a securities consultant, a socio-political analyst. Mr. Onoja, you are welcome to our studio, and I say in the characteristic of this program, nationalism and you.
It is my responsibilities and duties to protect my country. God bless you.
Very well, very well. Our military forces, the combined security forces, have been doing so much in the areas of kinetic engagement of these banditries and the act of terrorism that we have been confronting with. But yet it seems that these people are getting emboldened and they have escaped with. Why so?
Okay, let me start this morning to say that the ignoble triple dead divery of terrorism, kidnapping, and banditry has been recognized as the driver, the ferocious drivers, and core ember of Nigerian worsening insecurity. But unfortunately, corruption, grand corruption at that, has been excluded from the list of insecurity in Nigeria. Take for instance, when the Sri Lanka, the Tamai tiger of Sri Lanka, insurgents lasted for over 25 years. The Sri Lanka government recognized that the core drivers of insecurity is not just all about the terrorism part of it or the insurgent part of it, but it's the funding part that has made it lasted for over the years. So if we are going to support the military in the fight against terrorism, banditry, and kidnapping, then there's a need for us to look beyond the fence of kidnapping. We should equally look inward and understand that corruption has equally triggered the fight all put together called insecurity in Nigeria. So it is time for government to look elsewhere beyond the usual tools of fighting insecurity in Nigeria. What are the kind of corruption I am talking about? Sorry to let you know this morning that for the kind of weak security architectures we have in this country and the lack of the maximization of security budget in even the current administration, it's worse than terrorism itself. The act of terrorism does not just emanate from just one person. It is the contribution of our individuals and our collective actions and inactions that have taken us, have brought us to where we are today. So when we had people, or the former chief of army staff, that was alleged to have stolen public funds that were meant for the procurement of arms to be used to fight this nightmare, the security nightmare in the northwest, the northeast, and these funds were not used judiciously. This is another part of threatening insecurity that the government should have looked forward to address. Are you in me? So I believe that at this point, it is not all about fighting the insurgents, but finding an alternative to curtail the
as a security consultant, what other strategy do you think we can employ to defeat this act of terrorism and banditry?
Like I just mentioned, corruption, grand corruption in public and private sectors must be put on end, number one. Number two, while we are looking at other options. We must not forget the fundamentals. We should look at the border. And while we are looking at the border, we should look at the Chad and the Niger Chad that has a common border with Libya, where sophisticated weapons are supplied into or flowed into the country called Nigeria. We must look at a way to have a relationship with the sub-African countries and also the international communities as to share information. The kind of information I'm talking about is if there can be an information to bring in Maina into this country, then can be also be information to equally track any kind of illegal arms or anything that is important into this country. So Nigeria government should at this point look at a way to have a relationship with better relationship in terms of information sharing with other countries, neighboring countries. And we cannot address all of these things. That's why I mentioned it's all about the fundamentals. You cannot address all of these insecurity situations without addressing unemployment, poverty, and hunger. If we are going to look at a means at least to bring it to a barest minimum, then we should adopt what we call preventative diplomacy. If you now understand that the cost of insecurity in Nigeria is poverty, hunger, people felt that the leadership, they felt upward, kind of poor management, and the funds are not circulating only to few individuals, they should not find a means that if these things are the need or the cost of insecurity, then you should better address it from the onset, so that you cannot see if their funds, for example, the Nigerian Delta militant has their own reasons for coming up with their there's a way they come up with their issues. They feel that the funds are not getting down to them, and the people in authorities are not like the local balance. They're not sending them anymore. They come up with fight. They come up with these agitations of what to do around that region. So people should equally look at it that it is not just because they are in Niger Deltas. Nigerians can equally come up with different views of registering their displeasure when government is not meeting up with their requirement. And such is the cause of why we are here today, Boko Haram, banditry, and all of that. So other Nigerians also in different parts of the world, and also those in the country, are warming up to also come up with other ideals. So it's ideological driven when they feel that government is not meeting up their responsibilities. So government should start seeing a way to address the issues of hunger, poverty, and unemployment in the country as a necessary tools that will be used to address the issues of insecurity in Nigeria.
Now, taking it from there, you will also, there are opinions that says that there are super nations that wants to cut Nigeria to size. One can agree that poverty, unemployment, and things of that nature could make our youth susceptible to manipulation and recruitment into such things. But where you have other super nations that intended to cut Nigeria to size, and as a result of that, they are training through their own secret intelligence, they are training fighters against Nigeria and things of that nature. They supply logistics, they supply funding, because when you look at all these people we refer to as terrorists, the kind of funding that is available to them and things of that nature, one will understand that there is an external. What do you think?
I agreed with you 70% that yes, the supply of arms and funding are made available for these guys to operate is threatening. But like I said initially, you must address these issues and know where the funding is coming from. During the Sri Lanka, I still go back to the Sri Lanka Tamil Tigers. What the Sri Lanka government did was to address the ethnic Tamil diasporas, remittances that were funding these tigers. And they came to realize that, oh, what we need to do here is to block the funds And they went for the what? For the funding their fathers that said, come on, if this is going to be the reasons why you are supporting the Tigers to fight the countries, then we have to cut you out. Some of them that agreed to the political arrangement, we extended that, and some were against were still against the government, were pushed to the wall. So now what they should do, you should locate the National Security Advisor have over the years telling Nigerians that we have the names of those that are supporting or funding Boko Haram and funding terrorists in this country. What happened to those people? Have they not been able to address those people? Have they not been able to at least go for them and pick them one after the other? Why is it that people still keep romancing the issues of insecurity as if it does not matter because the people's lives are not involved? If we now know that this is where the fundings are coming from, the Central Bank of Nigeria have a role to play. If there's going to be any money coming, any fund coming from outside the country, this is the process to it. So we now know that these funds the talking about, in quote, is coming through a source. It gets to a bank. And when it gets to the bank, people goes to pick this cash. People goes to clear this cash. That is where the CBN should make laws, policies, that is going to guide banks and as to know how these monies move in different directions to the final destinations. They need to know how this money move from outside the country into the country, move from one body, from one account to another account without any interception. That is where I want at least our policymakers, our formulations to come in and say, let's make this law that is going to guide us as against this and that. Then also going back to how these arms are coming in, we talk about, but that's why I mentioned about the border earlier. These arms flown into this country, either they use the air or they use the land. How are they coming in? Don't you have people in charge of airlines? Don't you have people in charge of the seas, the ports, and all of these things? So we should equally know how to curtail those things by implementing certain laws and equally fortifying the borders with technology that can easily detect these things when they come into this country.
Yes. Some people have really talked about a situation whereby our border are so programmed through technology so that no matter where you are, from the table of those that matters to monitor the inflow and outflow of people and to know the nature of people that are flowing in and flowing out and that kind of a thing. Such people can be monitored from an office and things of that nature. Why are we not exploring technology?
I think it's not the will is not there. If the will is there, by now we should have made advances towards achieving that. Because it takes nothing to at least achieve that. The Office of the National Security Advisor is only the office I felt that should have gone through some trainings and equally advised Mr. President the need to equally put the head of all these agencies on their toes, that they should ensure that this and this is in place. Up to date, even in our airport, we have not come to the terms that we should now use what we call the biometrics system. Up to date, we're not using that in our airport today. So it makes it very easier for people to go out of the country and even come into the country without necessarily being checked. Not only by the national card or national passport, international passport. No, they should have at least, if you are going out of this country with your biometrics and everything, people should be able to know your antecedent and equally to know whether or not you are on the watch list. We should have explored that approach or that method. By now, with the threatening insecurity in this country, we should know who is coming to this country and who is going out of this country. Once you do that, it appears on the dashboard where you are coming from. The countries, maybe in the 3, 5, 6 countries where you have flown from. And if the need for questions, why do you need to go through these countries before coming to this country? They need to know, because at a point, Nigeria was becoming a transshipment destination for all of these arms and everything, because why? They feel that our border is weak. They now bring arms to this country, and they now use this country as a transshipment destination to move these arms out of the country, to another country. So let's know who is coming into this country. What are their aims? Are they the locals or foreigners? Who are they? But up to date, Our local airport authorities have not been able to say, let's employ this international standard, at least to know who is coming into this country. So I believe that, number one, we should exploit the biometric system of how our airlines should manage the passengers and all of that. Number two, up to date, we talk about the drones. We've not been able to fortify our territories or our borders with drones. We pray so much, like we pray to the God of Israel, but Israelites have fortified their regions with iron drums. Are we more religious than them? Are we too emotional about Christ or about Allah? So I think people should wake up from their slumbers and put necessary measures in place so that these things will not be every day we discuss it and they are not seeing results, or what we discuss is not being heard. When we see immigration, we should equally attach to them. What are their duties? Why this? Because all this fight about terrorism and everything, immigration appears to be innocent in all of it. But they have a major role as to what is going to happen coming to migrants and immigrants, all of this. They don't understand that it is the inflows of these people coming in and going out unchecked that has kept the country this way we are. So we should bring relevant industries and also agencies into being so they can understand that this is our duties and we have failed. I also believe that Mr. President have this in line, but just that maybe implementation have become a major challenges for this country.
Taking it from there, you just mentioned immigration. If the immigration does their work effectively, we can prevent most of these unwanted guests that are tormenting us. And the rest of recently, we saw the Nigerian military took over and killed some certain bandits, and most of them were looking for it and things of that nature. How come they find it easy to come in here? Immigration. Now, moving away from there, the GIABA, this organization this institution set up by the West African government to monitor illicit drug trafficking and illicit fund, money laundering and things of that nature, recently reported that Nigeria is not doing enough to monitor terrorist financing. They also said over 18 billion, about $36 million, passed through Nigeria's financial system. And yet we have EFCC, we have Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit, we have ICPC, we have DSS. Now you have just mentioned immigration. Are these institutions proactively working administratively to help in getting the results that are desirable towards ending these festering security challenges? I throw it back to you.
I don't think so. The agencies are not working to meet up that. It's unfortunate. Who will bear the cat? The EFCC you mentioned, the ICPC, they have their mandates. The DSS have their mandates. It depends on how these funds came into the country, go out of the country. But from reports, they pass through our financial systems, and that shows that it is not just physical cash. This cash moves from one account to another. So we should ask yourself, what are the duties of the EFCC? And now the DSS will be out of it somehow, except they work based on the intelligence they have. The immigrations will equally not be blamed much. But looking at it, except the money, physically, the cash are valuable, moving from one hand to another, that's when you can blame them. But now, going away from that, let me also say this, that even the local corruption situations we have not been able to curtail those ones. The one we have physically that we've seen, and people complain about, they swept it under the carpet. What happened to Babachi Lawa? When we talk about insecurity, I mentioned earlier that corruption is one of the problems, that's why insecurity have lasted for too long. Now, the funding process of these things must be put to an end. So if you see, like the report coming from another foreign body, as against Nigeria. But the problem is that do we even take this country, do we take this report seriously? When the Amnesty International came up with their report, how did we deal with it? You see, a minister coming to speak evil of the body. Why? Because the report is not favoring Nigeria. Did they take this report seriously? So that's what you should ask. I mentioned earlier that the CBN have a role to play. Before now, the CBN used to have a law or have a rule, if I'm going to put it, that look, for any foreign currency coming to this country that come into this country must pass through the CBN. Do we still have it today? Is that law still effective in the banking system? Any foreign currency coming into this country must be reserved by CBN. They're going to give you the Naira equivalent. At least the money belongs to CBN. Every foreign currency, that's one of the law. But today, is that still playing out when you can comfortably be at your house and you receive billions or millions of dollars from the international community? For any support they want to give you.
I am going to put a delicate question to you. Now, someone said, if General Muhammadu Buhari then, as a military head of state, had any reason to have changed the Naira as of that time, there are 1,001 reasons for him to change the currency so that those who are in the forest, those who are warehoused in various places and things of that nature. Because one of the things they said is that we elected one president and commander-in-chief, which is President Muhammadu Buhari. But they are saying that beside President Muhammadu Buhari, which is the only legitimate president we elected, we are having 120,000 president and commander-in-chief. And the context is that any man who can build a fortress, warehouse dollars, naira inside that fortress, and have 10, 20 men bearing arms. You just talked about it, corruption, fueling the insecurity, and the rest of it. They are commander-in-chief at their level. They said, can we make use of the instrument of our own currency as an instrument to fight banditry and all of this?
This will not work at this point. The level we are at the moment, changing the naira may not necessarily work again, because some of them have converted the naira to dollars, and they have also stocked these dollars in their various houses. So do you now change naira to punish victims instead of offenders? So these are questions that you need to ask yourself, because politicians, I'm sorry to say, or those threatening this country are no longer using the naira to fight us anymore. They use dollars to fight the naira, because the fact that the dollars have, that is the reason why you see that dollars keep growing today in the market and the naira keep crushing that. So you see, when you pay banditry naira, they in turn go back to change it to dollars. And unfortunately, some have even attempted to pay these terrorists dollars before now, as to support them what they demanded for. So, Mr. President changing the naira is going to be insignificant to the current fight to where we are. If at the initial stage this decision came and was implemented, it would have been better. As to change the naira today, even if changing it to coin, we are only going to end up punishing victims as against offenders. So to me, Mr. President should rather fight the people or the cabals that are supporting or funding these insurgents as non-lucrative means or lucrative business. And that some people have made it as a means of life, that until insecurity exists, their business does not longer flourish. So insecurity has become another means or another business for wicked Nigerians, for wicked people who felt that the souls of Nigerians does no longer matter. As far as the nairas and the dollars keep falling or keep dropping in their accounts, nothing matters to them. So to me, let us channel our energy more on preventative diplomacy, because at this point, the youth that are not employed, those that are disgruntled, are those that are being used against us.
Now, people say that evil that is exposed cannot do much harm. Are we doing enough to expose those who are financing, those whom we have arrested, those whom we have taken into custody? Are we doing enough to get to the root of the sponsors and the rest of it? For example, we heard over going to almost a year now, that some 400 members of the Bureau de Change have been recognized or arrested for the purpose of financing terrorism and things of that nature. But those things seems not to be coming out. Nobody is being held responsible. Nobody is being prosecuted. Does it have to take this long?
Well, I don't think it's truly members of Bureau de Change. What we had then was this money they use this means as to send this money through the Bureau de Change to the destinations of these terrorists. But we say we have over 400 sponsors of Boko Harams within and outside the country. Unfortunately, they threatened to publish these names. And it's up to date, like you said. The National Security Advisor recently came up and was making a reactive statement to that effect. You see, when you say you have names, and these names...
I was so eager to read the report, but I found nothing in it.
When you say you have names, and these names are just to make Nigerians believe that you are working, at the end of the day, it turns out to become mockery. And why did I say that there's no will? There's no will because you cannot tell me that most people sponsoring this art are not in government. An individual does not have so much of this money to sponsor such art for too long. They don't have such money. Look, when you realize that an art have continued for too long and people kept silent over it, especially those that are supposed to pursue it are keeping silent over it, then you should now realize that they actually gain something from keeping silent. Than when they say something, they don't make anything out of it. Look, I believe that Mr. President as a person may have done his best as to what to do, but implementation of his order or his decision is not carried out to the latter. And that has made him look helpless. Why? Because he felt that those that he has put in power are trusted and they can do anything he wishes to do. But that is not the case. That is not actually the case. We've had people that are accused of corruption under Mr. President watch and nothing happens. So these names we talked about, the names they published and I saw, yes, there's a name I saw. Those names I published, I am yet to equally recognize them with the names that initially were published. We have two names. Some names came, the first name came, and I said these are the names of those that are sponsored, and they are going to go after them. But later on, the names that even came were more of the outsiders. We're not having names of those that are expected to be in the country, so we can have them. So what happens to our DSS? What happened to our NIA? What happens to the special units of the force? But they have all the intelligence to go and bring minors back to this country. So why can't they go and extradite these people and bring them back? If you know they are the core sponsors of insecurity in this country, I believe that they are not doing enough. And I believe that they are not willing to do enough. Because if they are willing to do enough, it wouldn't have taken us this long to have end insecurity in this country.
The proficiency of the Nigerian military and security forces are never in doubt because we have exhibited that over times and even in foreign countries. Why is it appearing that we are helpless in these particular areas of fighting this terrorism?
We appear to be weak. Security forces appear to be helpless because of the politicalizing the whole thing that has appeared as if the Nigerian military does not exist anymore. We have never been this politicized. Our forces have never been this weak. Our forces have never been this compromised. Our forces has never been this appeared lukewarm. But unfortunately, the irony of the whole thing here is that even though they appear to be
But under Mr. President, they said, many people, including military officers, have said there's no time in the history of Nigeria that this country's military has been this equipped and empowered to take on any...
Yes, yes, as to budgeting, yes, know that they have budgeted a lot for...
apart from budgeting,
physical infrastructures have not been seen, because one of the funds we had about the last time for even the military is the embezzlement of the former chief of army staff, that they said the money budgeted for some of these arms were not there. And is that such?
But this government has been buying arms.
I mean, but this is the
sophisticated
report.
Arms for
but
that matter.
But this is report given to you, first-hand report given to you by the current chief of army staff that said that was then the late man that said, look, the money that was meant for the arms that were said to be budgeted and the money budgeted for these arms, number one, the arms are not there. And there's no guts to even call the chief of army staff to questions. I expect the National Assembly to have done justice to that, even before this ambassadorial appointment. But that was not done. So is it such a budget? There is no maximization of this budget as to what we are talking
now,
about.
Now let us take it this direction again. If you look at the nature of security challenges that we are confronting in Nigeria now today, it has transcended Nigeria alone. As a matter of fact, it didn't start from Nigeria. You have Mali, you have Burkina Faso, you have all those places, Libya. As a matter of fact, it's a Sahel-Saharan thing. Now, some people are saying that African Union ought to have designed a security architecture that a standing army that will target the menace of terrorists alone. That is, you separate political confrontation between people, there's issues that are political, then you target the terrorists alone, and you take them out in Libya, take them out in Mali, take them with a standing army to be led by Nigeria and the rest of it, and that every other African military powers will contribute to it and that kind of... You think that is a way to go?
Well, you see, we were having support of even the United States of America when they deployed their army to support the Nigerian army at the initial days of Boko Haram and all of that, if you remember. And Nigerians have not asked, why did they suddenly leave? How did they suddenly leave? Nigerians are not asking these questions. They have come to realize that our internal problems is the root cause of why we are not bringing this fight to an end. Now, as to have an army that is still going to lead, Nigerian army, that is going to still lead the Sahara and all of these sub-regions that is going to come up and under
Africans Union Security Architecture
that Nigeria is going to lead, I don't see that as a good idea. I don't see that as a good idea. If it is a force, they're going to be a mixed force from each of these continents, and then having each commanders from each of these countries as to stand in is a better way. But to make Nigeria the sole leader...
No, the leadership in this form is that Nigeria led the initiative, and Algeria, these are military power in the continent of Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the rest of it, say, we are targeting and making sure that this menace of terrorism, which is making life so cheap in the continent of Africa, because when we were growing up, we don't see dead bodies. Today, our little children see dead body, they don't even blink an eye, and things of that nature. So the value for life is eroding. So we are saying that, can't African Union create a standing army that will take on this act of terrorism and see it out totally in our continent?
Well, I believe that if done, if they survive or they succeed in such act, it will take them a long time for these armies to stand. Because one of the things that he talked about is that anything they have to identify need to be on terrorism base. This is why we have to be here. This is what our target is all about. And they take that out. They're going to come in at every point of clearance operations, and they'll return back to base. But in time to come, I see them, the interventions and the interceptions from the political wings are going to be the stumbling blocks that they will have. So you have made it open that yes, they're not going to be political intervention. There's not going to be any country interventions as regard politics or any kind of rules. But then I am seeing that they can be compromised, more so that the people, the indigenes, the nationalities are equally involved in the
act of terrorism.
In the act. They can be compromised. So you see, it's going to take them years as to come up with such standing instructions and standing army that can stand in the test of time.
Because we are a continent that is in their need of catch up with the rest of the world developmentally. And anarchy and development cannot run concurrently. So there should be a drastic measure that can see act of terrorism that is devaluing quality of life in the continent and create a peaceful condition which is necessary for our developmental stride.
Instead of that approach, I would advise that the National Assembly should come up with a strong act of terrorism rules, or whatever they're going to call it, as a law, that they're going to now carve it out as a law for anything terrorism in this country. Then this is something that the militaries or the paramilitaries can now use as a tools for fighting terrorism in the country.
Even now, the day before yesterday or yesterday, they said that the National Assembly and the State House and legislature are now target of terrorists. It's been wonderful talking with Mr. Isaac Onoja Jonathan on these issues of security challenges, the necessity for new strategy. We can keep on going on, and we hope that when we have the need to beckon on you again, you will make yourself available to us. Yes, that is the long we can go on this particular issue. Let all hands be on deck to arrest this menace of security challenges, that we may be able to create that peaceful environment necessary for our developmental stride as a nation. And understand this, nationalism is every Thursday. Until next week, Thursday, we ask you to keep a date with us. But with ITV, don't change the channel, because we will always be here to entertain you, to inform you, and to educate you. Thank you.